Border Collies are known for one thing above all else: awareness. They notice what others miss. They react before danger has a name, and Skye was no exception. She was a black and white Border Collie with sharp eyes and endless energy, living on a quiet farm at the edge of a small town. For years, Skye had helped herd sheep, run beside tractors, and follow her owner, Daniel, everywhere. She was a working dog, through and through, her purpose tied to the rhythms of the land. But when Daniel's daughter was born, Skye's world shifted. The baby's name was Ethan. Ethan was tiny, fragile, and completely unaware of the world around him. The open gates, the farm tools, the weather that could turn in an instant. Skye watched him from the moment he came home from the hospital. She didn't jump or bark or get overly excited. She simply watched, constantly. Her gaze was steady, her presence a silent promise. Daniel noticed it early on. Whenever Ethan was near, Skye positioned herself differently. She lay closer. She stood between the baby and any open spaces. Her body language changed completely. It wasn't playful. It wasn't relaxed. It was focused. A deep primal instinct had taken over, and her new mission was clear: protect the newest, most vulnerable member of her flock. One late summer afternoon, the kind that feels drowsy and endless, Daniel was working near the barn. Ethan was asleep in a stroller parked just outside, shaded by the sprawling branches of a large, old tree. The air was calm, almost too calm. But Skye was anything but. She paced restlessly. She circled the stroller once. Then again, her ears lifted, twitching, scanning the environment. Her eyes fixed on the distant sky, then on the field beyond the fence. Something was wrong. Her senses were screaming a warning that no human could yet hear. Daniel didn't notice at first. He was focused on repairing a loose gate, his mind on his work, but the wind began to shift, slow but deliberate. Dark clouds started rolling in over the hills, faster than anyone would expect on a day like this. Skye stopped pacing. She stood rigid, staring toward the horizon, and barked. It wasn't a playful bark, it wasn't a random bark. It was a sharp, urgent command that cut through the quiet air like a blade. Daniel turned. "Skye, enough," he said casually, assuming she was just reacting to some livestock or a passing animal. But Skye didn't stop. She ran to Ethan's stroller, placed her body protectively against it, and barked again, louder this time, more insistent. Then she ran back to Daniel, jumped against his leg, and sprinted toward the stroller once more, her message desperate and clear. That's when Daniel finally felt it. The wind changed. The temperature dropped suddenly, and in the distance, a low rumble of thunder rolled across the fields. The air was thick with the smell of rain. He moved quickly toward Ethan, a sense of urgency finally taking hold. At that exact moment, a sudden violent gust of wind tore through the farm, snapping a loose, heavy branch from the old tree directly above the stroller. Skye reacted instantly. With a surge of strength, she slammed her body into the stroller, pushing it sideways just enough. The branch crashed down with a sickening thud right where Ethan's head had been just moments before. Wood splintered. Leaves scattered. The sound was brutal and final. Ethan woke up screaming, terrified by the noise. Daniel froze for a split second, then ran. He grabbed the stroller, his hands shaking, his heart pounding in his chest. He looked down at his son, unharmed, crying, but alive. Then he looked at Skye. She stood between the fallen branch and the stroller, her chest heaving, her eyes locked on Ethan. Only when Daniel lifted his son into his arms did Skye finally seem to relax. Collapsing onto the grass, her tail giving a weak, exhausted wag. But the ordeal wasn't over. As Daniel turned to head toward the house, the storm broke fully. Rain fell in sheets, hard and fast. Thunder cracked directly overhead, the sound deafening. The path back to the house crossed a shallow drainage ditch normally harmless, but the sudden downpour had turned it into a rushing torrent of muddy water. Daniel, holding Ethan tightly, slipped on the slick mud, nearly losing his balance. Skye was already moving. She ran ahead, planted herself firmly on the other side, and pressed her body hard against Daniel's leg, steadying him. As Daniel regained his footing, Skye stayed glued to his side, guiding each step, her body a living anchor until they reached solid ground. Inside the house, soaked and shaken, Daniel sat on the floor holding Ethan close, completely overwhelmed. Skye lay in front of them, her coat dripping water onto the floor, still watching, still alert even after everything. That night Daniel couldn't sleep. He replayed the moment again and again in his mind. The branch, the stroller, the impossible timing. He knew the truth. This wasn't luck. This was something more. This was intelligence, instinct, and a fierce, unwavering sense of protection. From that day on, Skye never left Ethan's side. As Ethan grew, Skye adjusted her methods. She herded him away from open gates. She physically blocked staircases when he was just learning to crawl. She barked sharply whenever something felt wrong, and Daniel learned to listen every single time. Years later, when Ethan learned to walk, Skye walked beside him, her pace slow and patient. When he learned to run, she ran in wide, careful arcs around him, always keeping him centered and safe, just like she would with her sheep. The bond they shared was forged in that storm, sealed by an act of incredible bravery. Ethan would never remember the falling branch. He would never remember the thunder or the rushing water, but Skye would. And Daniel would, for the rest of his life. Because he learned that some dogs don't just love. They calculate, they anticipate, they act. And on one ordinary afternoon, a Border Collie proved that instinct can be the difference between a devastating tragedy and a life that gets to continue. It wasn't luck. It was a choice, made by a hero with 4 paws and a heart full of devotion. Thanks for watching.